Let's talk about one of the weirdest footnotes in all of history. It's from 1925, and it's called the War of the Stray Dog. Now, I know, it sounds like a joke, right? But this was a deadly serious international incident that brought two countries right to the edge of a full-scale war.
So that's the big question right off the bat. Is it even possible? Could a totally normal, everyday thing, a guy chasing his dog, actually spark an international military crisis? Well, the answer is a lot more complicated and honestly way more fascinating than you'd think.
Okay, so here's the spark. Picture this. It's October 1925, on the super tense border between Greece and Bulgaria. A Greek soldier's dog just bolts, running right across the border into Bulgarian territory. The soldier, probably not even thinking, just takes off after it. But in that kind of environment, a simple act like that is seen as an invasion, and a Bulgarian border guard shoots the Greek soldier dead.
But to really get why that one gunshot didn't just end there, we've got to rewind a bit. See, this wasn't just some random incident. It was like a single spark landing in a giant tinderbox of bad blood and resentment that had been building up for decades.
So let's just quickly trace how we got here. Both Greece and Bulgaria pop up after the fall of the Ottoman Empire, but they pretty quickly turn on each other. They were allies in the First Balkan War, then immediately became bitter enemies in the Second, fighting over who got what land. Then World War I happens, and they end up on opposite sides again. The treaty that ended that war, it came down hard on Bulgaria and basically gave Greece a bunch of rewards. This was not a friendly rivalry. We're talking deep, bitter hatred.
And this really shows you how different things were for them after the war. You've got Greece on one side, one of the winners, getting more land and respect on the world stage. And then you have Bulgaria, the loser. They were forced to give up land, lost their access to the Aegean Sea, and got slapped with a really harsh treaty. You can just imagine the sense of national humiliation, and it was just simmering there all the time.
And that resentment wasn't just simmering. Oh no, it was being actively stirred up. You had these radical paramilitary groups, like the MRO, that completely rejected the peace treaty. They set up shop in the Bulgarian town of Petrich and used it as a base to launch cross-border raids into Greece. So the whole region was in a state of, constant, low-level warfare. It was anything but peaceful.
Okay, so you have that whole powder keg atmosphere in your head now, right? Let's jump back to October 1925 and watch how that single shot spirals completely out of control, turning a tiny border skirmish into a major international crisis.
This is just a perfect storm of escalation. So, the first soldier gets shot chasing his dog. His fellow Greek guards see this and they immediately start shooting back. The Bulgarians return fire. Then, there's a small break in the fighting, and a Greek captain, trying to be the hero, walks out with a white flag to try and call a truce. He gets shot and killed too. In just a few hours, a stupid little incident has become a deadly gunfight.
And this is where the whole thing becomes political. Back in Athens, the government doesn't see this as a tragedy that needs to be calmed down. They see it as an opportunity. Greece at this time is run by a dictator, General Theodoros Pangalos, who'd taken power in a coup. And he's looking for any excuse to look strong and flex his muscles.
So Pangalos decides he's going to issue an ultimatum. And an ultimatum, if you don't know, is basically a final set of demands. It's the diplomatic version of, do this or else. It's drawing a line in the sand, and if the other side doesn't do exactly what you say, there are going to be serious consequences. And the demands were intense. Pangalos gave Bulgaria just 48 hours to do 3 things: punish the soldiers responsible, issue a formal apology from the government, and pay a massive fine of 2 million French francs. Let's be honest, an ultimatum like this is basically designed to be rejected. And just as he probably hoped, Bulgaria refused. This gave Pangalo the green light he wanted, and he ordered an invasion. But Bulgaria made a really interesting move. Instead of fighting back with their army, they decided to appeal to this brand new thing called the League of Nations, putting this whole idea of international law to the test. So, on October 22nd, Greek forces pour across the border into Bulgaria. They march in and occupy the town of Petrich. Yep, the same town the IMRO paramilitaries were using, and a bunch of other villages. A border skirmish had just officially become a military invasion. But instead of ordering a full-scale mobilization, which would have started a horrible war, Bulgaria played the only card they had left. They sent a desperate message to the brand new League of Nations. Think of it as the early version of the UN, and begged them to step in. Well, Pangalos was furious. He immediately started yelling about hypocrisy. He pointed to another recent event where Italy, a huge European power, had attacked the Greek island of Corfu, and the League basically did nothing. So he accused them of having one rule for the big boys, like Italy, and a completely different rule for smaller countries, like Greece.
But you know what? This time, the League actually acted. They strongly condemned the Greek invasion and gave them a direct order. Stop fighting, pull your troops out of Bulgaria immediately. And, on top of that, you're going to pay reparations to Bulgaria for the damage you caused.
And this right here shows the incredible turnaround. It's kind of funny, actually. Greece had demanded 2 million francs from Bulgaria. In the end, the League made Greece pay Bulgaria more than 4 million francs, more than double its original demand. The general's big power play completely backfired, and it was a total humiliation.
But amidst all the politics and money changing hands, it's really important to remember the human cost. A full-on war was avoided, thank goodness, but this little conflict wasn't bloodless. About 50 people, a mix of soldiers and civilians, were killed during that short Greek invasion.
So the most important thing to take away from all this is that it was never, ever really about the dog. The dog was just the spark. The real cause was the tinderbox, all that history, all that politics, all that bad blood, just waiting for a reason to ignite.
Which brings us right back to where we started. Was this whole international crisis that left dozens of people dead and almost started a war, was it all really because a dog ran away? And the answer is a definite no. The real lesson of the War of the Stray Dog is that a tiny, almost silly event can absolutely set off a huge conflict. But it can only do that when the conditions are already perfect, when the tinderbox of historical tension and political anger is already there, ready to explode. The dog didn't cause the fire, it just lit the match.
And that really leaves us with a pretty chilling thought for today. When you look around the world at all the tense spots, you have to ask yourself, where are today's tinderboxes? And what seemingly small, insignificant event, what's today's stray dog, could be the spark that sets the whole thing ablaze? Thanks for joining me for this explainer.